I don't know if it's
Well, welcome to the Richardson Area Democrats 2025 Candidate Forum. I'm Jenny Laughlin, President of RAD, and on behalf of the board and all the candidates, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for caring enough about our local elections to spend your evening with us, whether you're watching this live or so sorry, having a little technical difficulty there. Whether you're watching this live or recording, or watching the recording on YouTube. Tonight's forum is focused on local, nonpartisan offices, and as such, we'll stick to subjects that are in their purview, whether that is the City Council or School Board of Trustees. But before we get started, I do want to address the elephant-sized gorilla in the room. We are living in a world and time that may be unprecedented in the level of divisiveness and partisanship. Vilifying and demonizing the other side are so pervasive that it may be perceived as normal. But tonight, we're going to ask you to suspend those parameters and divisions and consider your neighbors, your local servants, civil servants, with a nonpartisan eye and ear. This local election may be the last bastion of true nonpartisanship available to us. Every one of these candidates is asking to be considered for a basically volunteer job that will consume them, put them on the line of fire, and require time and commitment that could only come from a true love of the people they serve. So let's sit back and with open hearts and minds, listen and watch, then get ready to vote. Tonight, we'll hear from candidates for mayor, City Council Place 6, and Richardson ISD Board District 2. The questions come from folks across Richardson and were edited for clarity, brevity, and in some cases, similar questions were merged. If you don't hear your question, it may have come in after we created the script for tonight, but we do appreciate all of you for your participation. Each candidate will be asked a question. They'll be given 2 minutes to answer. Then their opponents will be given 1 minute to respond, and then they'll be given another 30 seconds to rebut. They have not been shown the questions. So let's get started. Gabe Meadows, longtime resident of Canyon Creek, will be our first moderator. Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, and welcome, everybody. I'll just jump right in. Let me first apologize for what might not be the best voice. I hope I'll have a better voice on March the 29th. How's that for a little plug for myself, my performance on the 29th? It's sold out, Jenny, so I won't spend much time on that. So we'll jump right in. We'll start with the mayor's race and give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves. Let's start with Mayor Bob Doobie, and then we'll go to former councilman candidate Amir Omar. Thank you, and we'll go right to the question. Let's see here. The first question is, there is I'm supposed to give this warning, this note. There's a third candidate, Alan North, who declined our invitation to participate in this forum and in RAD's endorsement process altogether. So we'll get started with the questions now. First question goes to Amir and comes from TJ in Marlborough Square. Amir, Do you support single member districts? Why or why not? For our audience, that means that voting for certain city council places would be restricted to only the voters in their districts, the way that RISD did has been since 2019. Amir, you have 2 minutes to answer the question. The question will then go to Bob to answer the
Mr.
second.
Mr. Meadows, sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, did you want us to give those 1-minute introductions that we talked about in the instructions?
Did we pass those? Did I skip those? I'm sorry if I did.
That's totally okay. I just wanted to make sure so we could.
Didn't see that. What's going on with my script here? I know that's part of it though, so if you will, please do that.
Wonderful. All right. Well, my name is Amir Omar. I'm running for mayor because I believe our city deserves leadership that is transparent, proactive, and deeply connected to the community. My journey from a first-generation American to a business leader and public servant has reinforced my belief in the power of a city that listens to its residents. For years, I've worked alongside my neighbors, advocating for initiatives that strengthen our community, from economic development and technological innovation to expanding public engagement and government transparency. Richardson deserves a mayor who is proactively focused on our future, who will not just react to challenges, but will actively shape a city that works for all of us. We need leadership that sees the big picture, values the voices of our residents, and embraces innovation to move Richardson forward. That's the kind of leadership I bring, and that's why I'm running to become the next mayor of Richardson. I humbly ask for your support and vote.
Okay, and I humbly beg your pardon because I was supposed to offer that, and I have another apology to make to Mayor Bob Doobie because you were supposed to go first. So now you can go, Bob, and you can see if you can better that introduction.
Well, Gabe, thank you very much, and no offense taken by any means. First of all, I am honored to be the current mayor, and I believe I have done exactly what I promised the citizens of Richardson that I would do. I would listen, I'd learn, and then I would lead. In listening, the first thing I did when I took oath, the first official act I did was to allow the citizens 5 full minutes instead of the 3 short minutes that our previous mayor had put in place. And I think that's real important because I'm not just talking it, I'm walking the talk. I've lived here 64 years. I understand what the citizens want, and I have been a servant leader for 48 of those years in different roles within this city, for the city and the school district. Not only am I proven that I can be a strong leader, I bring the ethics, the morals, and the integrity with me that's proven through the history of what I've done. And I am looking forward to being your mayor another term.
Okay, this is where I was supposed to thank you both. So I will get that done. You're both. Thank you for your introductions. And as I said, Alan North, who declined our invitation to participate in this forum and in RAD's endorsement process altogether. So we'll get started with the first question. So now the first question goes to Amir. Amir, it comes from TJ in Marlborough Square. Do you support single member districts? Why or why not? For our audience, that means that voting for certain city council places would be restricted to only the voters in their districts, the way that RISD has been since 2019. Amir, you have 2 minutes to answer the question, and then we'll ask Bob the same question.
Sure. So appreciate the question. And what I can say about single member districts is every place where you've seen single member districts put in, it's generally because there's either a disenfranchised group or a disenfranchised type ethnicity or otherwise that might not be able to get elected otherwise. And I think one of the unique things that's happened with Richardson City Council races is that we haven't really seen that level of disenfranchisement that I've seen in any part of the city, nor has anyone really called that out in any sort of exceptional way. What I love about the way that we do things today is that every single council person can feel accountable to the entire city so that we're making the best choices for the city at large versus just our little segment of the city. I think if you have a city that has considerably more differences, large swaths that are just very, very different from the others, I think there you might look at single member districts, but in Richardson, I haven't seen that to be the case. There just hasn't been enough information for me to really feel like that's something that we ought to be taking up. So from my perspective, I'd be a no for Richardson single member districts, but I keep an open mind. If residents feel like it's important, I'd love to hear the case.
Bob, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Hey, thank you.
Bob, you have
Amir?
1 minute. Sorry, it's 1 minute.
Okay, well, thank you. And I don't disagree with Amir on most of what he said. I will tell you that we have solved the problem with our culture issues, with our community engagement and inclusion commission. We received an award for putting that commission in place. And that was a promise that I made from the get-go. Our school district has this type of single district approach, and I think it's working for them. And I have no issues with that. I look and see what the city of Dallas is doing with their single district, and they're all over the map. I promised to build a team, and as a team, our council works together. We solve problems across the entire city. There are things that allow people to get engaged, allow them to talk, communicate, and then we can solve those problems. I don't think we need a single district to do that. I don't want something that would be divisive to the council.
Amir, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, so I would agree that single member districts seem to be working well in the places that they're used. I think in RISD, to the example I gave earlier, there is definitely enough of a difference from one part of the RISD to another to where you would want to see that sort of representation. That's all I really have to say about that.
Bob, if you'd like, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
I'm very comfortable with where we are. I think we're both on the same page. We want what's best for all of the entire city. We don't want council members to ever feel like they're in opposition of each other or putting issues between us that we can't get past. And I think that just becomes divisive. So I think we're pretty much agreement that our city is a cultural opportunity which we embrace, and the diversity we embrace. Those things already happened. I don't think we need to go back. Thank you.
Thank you. Amir, the next question is for you from Wendell in Canyon Creek.
Gabe, if I'm sorry to interrupt you, are we gonna switch the start for each question, or are we gonna do them all in the same order?
No, we're doing them all in the same order. You had Bob had 30 seconds to follow up.
Fair enough. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood the process here.
Okay. The next question is yours from Wendell in Canyon Creek. There's been a lot of frustration across the city over the last couple of years with the number of street projects going on and the amount of time they linger in construction. What can you as mayor do to mitigate that?
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. I think it's important. So first and foremost, I say kudos to Richardson and Richardson leadership. The leaders over the last number of years have really emphasized infrastructure and making sure that we're constantly making sure that our streets and alleys are trying to keep up with any kind of deterioration. Where I do think that there's room for improvement is making sure that we're communicating in a much clearer way with our neighborhoods. I think that there's an opportunity here for us to be able to outline exactly what's going to happen, exactly when we expect for it to start, and when we expect for it to end. We want to see situations like in Canyon Creek today, where you're trying to get around one construction project and you are diverting and end up running into another construction project. And so that's a place where a little bit better communication, frankly, better signage, just a little bit more that we can do to improve things. That said, I'm all in favor of continuing to move forward with infrastructure improvements as quickly as possible. The last thing I'll say here is one of the things that I'm proposing is a best practices committee, a place where what we can do is bring the best and brightest residents of Richardson, bring them together so that they can help us study what every other city around the Metroplex is doing. There are other cities that might use different contracting mechanisms when it comes to things like streets and alleys. Maybe there's bonuses for ending early and that sort of thing. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at each of these best practices so that we can continue to make sure that the jobs and the projects that we're working on are the lowest amount of irritation as possible while still getting the work done.
Bob, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, speaking specifically about Canyon Creek, that was a debacle as far as time goes. The city knows that. We know that. There was a company and some management that were fired over that. The bottom line is we reacted appropriately. We have incentivized the next projects in such a way where they get through earlier, they make a little bit more. If they drag it out, they're going to pay us money. So we've got a solution to it. It wasn't fun watching all those things happen. But in defense, we can't stop Mother Nature. You have to realize all the things that set them back also that were out of their hands, not just the poor management of the individual who was supervising that particular project. Now, as it relates to how we maneuver around the town, I received an email just the other day, not an email, an actual letter from a gentleman who was real upset about the streets. But there was a little confusion because it was Dallas he was talking about in his letter. So, but I still listen. And I think that we do a great job of trying to make sure which streets that are complementary streets, the arterials that go with it, they're open, ready to go, and we are able to find ways to divert traffic in a most efficient way. It's never convenient, it's never good, but that's where we are. We have put in 37 miles of linear lanes, of alleys, streets, sidewalks, all of that. And all of those miles add up to the most that we in any budget have ever put in the budget for infrastructure. And then on top of that, we added more money into the bond projects to make sure we get this done. Our city's 152 years old. We have to repair it and have to repair it quickly. And we're going to do it most efficiently and under best practices that we can. And we have a great team doing it.
Hey, Bob, you can thank me for giving you an extra minute to reply to that question. I was supposed to give you one, and you got two. Now, Amir,
Well, thank you.
30 seconds to reply.
Yeah. So again, I'm thrilled to hear that we're trying different practices, and I think that's a part of looking for best practices, and that can be actually taken to a number of different issues, some of which we may talk about tonight. One element of best practices is communication. So whether or not you get the job done quickly, making sure that the residents know that when it's going to start before it starts, when it's going to end, or at least when it's expected to end, what the caveats are, and then making sure that they understand how to get around it. That's my suggestion when it comes to better communications.
Okay, I'm going to go to another question, and that question is for you, Bob. Dana in Canyon Creek asked, what do you see as the most important aspect of the mayor's role in working with the city council? You have 2 minutes, Bob, to answer that.
Thank you, Gabe. And I really appreciate the question because I'm excited about the council that we have. And we are extremely diverse on our council. You look at the occupations that are there, they all come from a different perspective. We have a hospital administrator, we have a lawyer, we have an architect, we have a city designer, engineer, we have a school teacher. You know, we have an accountant. We have all those fabulous things that we can take advantage of. I respect each and every one of those council members, and I show them that I respect them with grace and dignity and asking for their opinions. If you watch me run a council meeting, and some people criticize me for this, but I'm going to tell you straight up, I run a council meeting where they are free to speak, give their expertise, talk about it, and then I don't tell them they're right or they're wrong. I listen because I want to build a consensus. and build an opportunity for every voice to be heard. That's the most important thing, and for them to feel comfortable while they're doing it. And I think that I've done that. I think that I've eliminated the feeling that if I say the wrong thing or I start thinking outside the box, that there'll be criticism. There is no criticism. There's no wrong answer. There's lots of great ideas, and we have to evaluate that as a council. And we get our input from the City Planning Commission and from the citizens. And so we're able to take all of that together. And that's what I challenge the entire council to do. Be global in their thinking, think outside the box, and get excited about the opportunity to make a difference in our town. This is what we really want to do. We want nothing but the best. And we're looking into the future. We're not looking into 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's about the future, 25, 30, 40 years from now. And we're going to make it happen because that's what we're here to do. And I'm excited to do it.
Right on time. Wow. Amir, you have a minute to respond?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing about running a meeting is being able to hopefully make sure that you're drawing as much input out of each individual that is on the council. I agree that there's a skilled council there. I'm thrilled with the opportunity to get to work with them, and I'm looking forward to that opportunity. What I can say is there's a lot of talk about consensus, and I'm not sure exactly which definition we're using, but the definition I know is a consensus is a 7-0 vote. I don't know that the goal as mayor, from my perspective, is to reach a consensus each and every vote. I think it's important that we allow and make sure that every single council member feels like it's okay to vote against something if there's 5 others that are voting for it. And so I'm going to be the kind of mayor that's going to make sure that each person's voice is heard. But I'm also going to not be shy about weighing in on my own decisions, because that's also a part of leadership.
Bob, you have a 30-second follow-up if you'd like.
Yes, thank you, Gabe. Leadership is earned. And I think in 2 years, I've earned the right to be the leader of the city because I have done it, like I said, with dignity and respect. And I am very proud of that. And every council member knows that we're not going to always have a 7-0 vote. And when I talk about a consensus, I talk about a consensus in our rules of engagement. I talk about a consensus of understanding it is okay to share my thoughts. It's okay that we're all on the same page. And we have done that very, very well.
Okay, Bob, the next question is for you. This question is from Patricia in Canyon Creek and Andrew in Richardson Heights. Many people in Richardson see our Main Street downtown project as not meeting objectives like walkability, infrastructure, and destination businesses and restaurants. What will you do as mayor to get us back on track and make sure we stick to our urban redevelopment plans there and in other key places in Richardson?
Well, thank you. I'm going to have to say we are on track. I don't need to get back on track. The council in 2015, I was not on the council when they did that, but in 2015, we have a master plan. We have a comprehensive plan. We have all types of plans, and the Envision Richardson is in place. But back in 2015, the council at that time, they said, we want to redo downtown. The council came together. They said the integrity of Main Street, the frontage of Main Street, they wanted to keep. They wanted to keep McKinney Avenue. That was important. Now, outside of that, around that, that was open. When COVID hit, we lost retail. We had the people that own the different storefronts give them free rent for months and months, years, so that they could at least stay open. We worked as a city to help that. So we have partnered. We've worked hard to get retail. Now, the big development that just is coming in on Polk Street, that has walkability. We said to the developer, open it up, do what? And they came back with another plan. And then just to the south of that, you have the new development, which is open field all around, and that's the Nest. That's going to be, not to mention, we have partnered with DART, and we have spent $5 million on the linear park going to the north along the rail. And we now have control of the DART deal because of our partnership. It's a 99-year deal. We have park. We're going to have open space. We're going to have things for kids to do. It's going to be amazing when it all comes together. So the vision has not changed. It's going to be very walkable. You just have to know where you're going, what you're doing, and retail will come. And we will have people walking downtown, and it's going to be bikeable, movable, and lots of fun.
Amir, you have 1 minute to respond, please.
Yeah, so there's this thing called the Richardson way. Mayors for years have talked about it. It's to plan your work and work your plan. And if you want to put one major reason why I've decided to run for mayor, it's because I don't see that Richardson way being held up anymore. You can look no further than downtown Richardson or interurban, both of which had specific plans and both of which ended up in 4-3 votes where the mayor went against breaking the plan and doing exactly the opposite. At interurban, you had Clay Cooley, who was looking to expand all the way to interurban, something that was explicitly stated as a less desirable solution that would actually reduce walkability. The mayor voted for it. I would have voted against it. Highland Terrace, Partenope, businesses and individuals begging the mayor, please, let's allow downtown Richardson to stick with the plan. Instead, we ended up with a super block of 270 some odd apartments.
Bob, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
I appreciate that. And I think we were scolded heavily because we were going with the 2009 master plan. What are you going to do? How are you going to expand? What are you going to do as a council? Well, we looked at it and we did Envision Richardson, and we listened for months to the community as to what we want to do. We got all kinds of wonderful ideas. So we are listening and we have a vision. And so the other piece of that, if you don't build apartments or you don't build housing or you don't bring those type of things, you're not going to be able to get retail to join you.
Okay. John in College Park has a question for Amir. As mayor, what can you do to foster collaboration between UTD and companies in engineering and technology located in the IQ district?
That's a great question. So I think that's also one of the large value propositions that I bring to the table. My background is been in technology for the greater part of the last 25 years. I'm a business executive, and as we're talking to other businesses, having a business executive be able to understand the language of technology, to understand the language that business executives have to deal with on a day-by-day basis, that's something that I think would add a whole lot of credibility to the sales pitch that we bring as a city. I'm incredibly excited about partnering with Don Magner, our city manager, who is second to none, and being able to see what we can do to drive economic development. Now, a big part of that is UTD. And I went and got my master's actually at UTD, master's in business. And I'm very keenly aware of the tremendous opportunity we have there. But opportunities need to go beyond just saying a statement like town and gown. And instead, they need to actually have action behind them. What are we doing specifically to actually work with them beyond the IQ HQ? What are we doing specifically to actually use UTD to attract businesses over? How are we talking about that? Where is that information? And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to have a mayor that can actually help us with that economic development, help us be able to connect UTD with the rest of the business community, and be able to be the spokesperson and the salesperson that can help our city land those companies, both big and small, by the way. Last thing I want to say about this is we can't just be business friendly and say yes to every business. We also have to think about the businesses and the residents that are already here. So if somebody wants to come to Richardson, the first place I'm looking is to figure out if our business community that's already here and our residents are fine or are comfortable with them coming to the direction that they're going.
That was quite a challenge. You have a minute, 30 seconds to reply to that.
Well, all of those things, we're currently doing them and doing them very well. Over the last year, we have had over 30 large and middle-sized companies call Richardson their home. They've either reproduced, added more, or moved here. So the bottom line is we're working with UT Dallas. They're in the IQ HQ. They are there with us. We all even give them tasks to do, and they work with our companies. We work business to business right there, which is making a huge difference. And so we just added 4,000 jobs in Richardson, Texas in the last year.
Bob, again, I apologize. I shorted you 30 seconds. If you had something else to add to that, you may at this point.
Well, I will say that we have an incubator in the IQ that brings international companies here. Most of the students at UT Dallas are international students, and they have the ability to work hand in hand with these businesses. And so we have 6 different divisions of humanities, different ones at the IQ, and they all have different tasks. They're doing batteries, they're doing wafers, they're doing lots of different things. But if you give them a challenge, they will come over and help those companies that are there as well. And so we're taking advantage of the young, bright, talented students we have.
Thanks, Bob. Now, Amir, you have your 30 seconds to follow up.
Yeah, I recognize that there's always a desire to make everything sound so rosy, and we do have an amazing city and an amazing team. But it's important that we are straight with the residents. We talk about how many new businesses you've got coming in, but have you talked ever about how many businesses we're losing? At the end of the day, there's a reason why we've got a 10% year-over-year decrease in our commercial building values. There's a reason why we're 9% down year-over-year in sales tax. It's because we need to do more in economic development.
Okay, well, our last question on this portion of the forum is for Bob. From Alicia in Heights Park, what specific policies would you implement to ensure continued economic development while maintaining our city's unique character and quality of life? Mayor Bob.
Thank you very much, Kate. All right, thank you. I think it's really important, and I'll go back a little bit. This is economic development, but I'll go back on Amir. We just had $225 million of capital investments in 2024. So I don't understand why he thinks we're losing so much. Hey, COVID lost a lot. A lot of things happened. We have some Class B office buildings that we've got to redo, repurpose, and energize. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are focusing on business to business, and the IQ, like you know, has 1,200 acres, not so much anymore. That's shrinking because we're getting more and more companies in there. The bottom line is we have an opportunity to really energize the city in the TOD or transit-oriented development areas with living people who don't mind living in and around businesses and retails and those type things. That saves the integrity of our neighborhoods. That saves the opportunity to limit traffic in our neighborhoods. And now we're going to be more mobile. We even, if you remember, we did the BPAC. That's a brand new commission we put in dealing with bikeable and pedestrians. We have made our neighborhoods more walkable with the neighborhood way. We've got a lot of things that are working, that are reaching out and taking care of top to bottom the different types of communities. And I think that that's something we're all very, very proud of. And we'll continue to do that and honor the diversity in the different, say, incomes, the different ages, the different where they are as far as in their maturing and so forth. Are they a young couple, an older couple? We have something for everyone in this city. And that goes all the way back to being able to have the senior exemption program. It's $160,000 for seniors. So that gives them another little boost. And we lowered the tax rate almost 2 cents this past year, which is huge.
Thank you, Mayor Doobie. Amir, you have a minute to follow up.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to remember what the original question was, because I think the answer went a few different places, but I'll take a shot at it. Go ahead.
I can give you the question again if you like.
Yeah, please.
Okay. What specific policies would you implement to ensure continued economic development while maintaining our city's unique character and quality of life?
Yeah,
You have
so
1 minute.
thank you. So I think from that perspective, it goes back to listening to the community. I think if we are listening to the community, then we are creating plans together, and if we're creating plans together, then we ought to stick with those plans. Again, it's a part of the Richardson way. Unfortunately, I hear the mayor saying he's listening to the community. I hear the mayor saying that he just did Envision Richardson, but we had just done the downtown plan. We had just done the interurban plan. And we have to have an attitude that either our planners weren't any good back then, and therefore we're going to ignore the plan, or we're just going to kind of do it by the seat of our pants. I look at things from a strategic perspective. And from my perspective, I want to make sure that we're making the best use of every single opportunity. The mayor mentioned a TOD area, which is the Arapahoe area is one of the key ones. He was a part of approving a salvage car lot to go at the new entrance of Richardson, right there at Arapahoe and Greenville. To me, that's not strategic and it's not a part of the plan.
Mr. Mayor, you've been challenged. You've got 30 seconds to follow up.
Well, speaking of the car lot, it has a 5-year maximum being in that spot. Why not help our citizens, all citizens, with an opportunity to buy a car if they want one, be able to help a business. We talk about business being business friendly, but it can only be there 5 years. And when the Arapahoe station is being developed and materializing, that'll be gone. So would you rather have a tax rate or have an empty lot? So you use your taxpayers' money wisely and make sure that we're taking care of all people. I don't think that isn't even an issue.
Well, thank you both for your thoughtful answers. We'll give you each 1 minute to wrap up anything that you want to say that you didn't get to share. We'll start with you, Amir. 1 minute.
Yeah, so thank you very much to the Richardson area Democrats for this well-organized and put together debate. Look, Mayor Doobie and I, we were both Leadership Richardson classmates. As far as I'm concerned, I think Mayor Doobie's a good man. He and I just have very different approaches to the job. I believe that the job is one where we should be proactive and leading and helping our city be able to achieve the very most that it can. And I think what I've seen in the last 2 years is more of a ceremonial mayor. And from my perspective, I believe that Richardson needs more. They need the proactivity. We need a leader who can get out there, communicate effectively, and be able to speak to the masses, to be able to reach out to the business community and eloquently talk about why it is that Richardson is the place they ought to call home. That's why I'm running for mayor. And so I really appreciate your time. I'm open to any and all questions. You can book a coffee with me online. I look forward to meeting with you.
Mr. Mayor, you've got 1 minute to give any thoughts.
Well, my initial thought is I've made a career of communicating with people and working with people. And I've been able to solve hard problems. I've been able to solve easy problems. Just because he doesn't think my leadership style is the way he would do it, that's okay. I accept what he's saying. But I think the proof is in the pudding. I'm a people person. I'm kid oriented. I'm people driven. And I get along with people. I am here to demonstrate that my decisions are based on integrity. They're based on sound best practices. And I don't make an opinion or put something forth without having done the research ahead of time. So as an educator, as a coach, and as a motivator, I do all those things. And we have business meetings, Mr. Magner and I, with businesses all the time. And the proof is in the pudding with over 30 of them saying we want to be here because we've met with over 30 in 2 years. And I think we're doing a great job.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank both of you. The next portion of the forum will focus on candidates for City Council. Place 6, Mayor Pro Tem Arifin Shamsul and candidate Lisa Kupfer. We'll ask Arifin to take 1 minute to introduce himself, and then we'll have Lisa do the same. Mr. Arifin, 1 minute. Mr. Arifin, can you hear us?
Yes, and thank you, Gabe, and thanks to the Richardson Democratic Party for arranging this forum, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. And my name is Arifin Shamsul, and over the past 4 years, it has been my honor to serve as your City Council member for Place 6, and in 2021, first time you have elected me, and then I was humbled by your trust and to get re-elected in 2023. So I'm running for my third term to continue what we have so far done and built on. So now, over the many years, I've served on many other committees, other government places, but we have, last 4 years, we have achieved a lot, and we have prepared ourselves for the future a lot. So we want to continue on that, and I'm looking forward to have your trust again on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Arifin. Lisa, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name's Lisa Kepfer, and I'll echo Arifin by saying thank you to Richardson area Democrats for hosting this forum. I'm basically running in a nutshell because I believe challenge is a hallmark of healthy democracy. I think that needs to be said, especially following such a spirited mayoral forum. I've been a Richardson resident for going on 14 years now, a longtime community volunteer, served on boards and commissions. I think Richardson has a lot of good things going on about it. We have a great council. I really do like Arifin. But again, I believe that it's healthy to challenge. And I think we have a tendency as a community to sometimes get complacent and feel like it's rude to challenge. So I'm throwing my name in the hat. Don't want to wait for someone to term out. And again, I think this opens up a lot of really great dialogue. I have a servant's heart and want to serve this community more deeply. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. This portion of the forum will focus on thank you for that. We'll have now the same format here that we had for the first section. Lisa, the first question of this, let's see here. This question is from Diane in Prairie Creek. I'm sorry. For decades, Richardson was known for having great schools. What specifically can City Council do to collaborate with schools to support continued excellence? And that's for Lisa, and that you have 2 minutes to answer that.
That's a great question. I do believe that Richardson has a proud tradition of partnering with both Richardson ISD and Plano ISD. I think that we can contribute by doing our job as a municipality well and doing everything that we can to support the quality of life of our residents. Kiddos are going to struggle with education if there's stressors outside the home. And I believe that us taking the time to ensure that our families are receiving the support that they need and can enjoy good amenities is something that's really key. I'm going to take a quick second to apologize. We have some thunder outside and I have barking dogs, so I apologize for that background noise. But again, I think that that's something that is truly key. I'm going to go ahead and give my time back to y'all right now and just say thank you so much for the opportunity to present and to answer this question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Arifin, you have a minute to reply to that if you'd like.
Yes, that's great. I think it's a great question. And sometimes we think that Richardson ISD, that they're Richardson Independent School District, and then we're talking about city, two different entity, but definitely city can do lots of things to help the school district. Number one, you have seen the school has closed down recently, but this did not happen just today because, it started many years ago. If you knew all this thing, that how things are moving, you should know that this is coming. So I think city has a responsibility making sure that we have the right density today and also for the future. Because when we have a good, wonderful city, people don't really move out when the kids grows up. They stays there, but the children, they goes, you know, workplace, other places. Now we have empty school. So there are really great planning besides all those supporting the RISD for everything else. We have to have a long-term planning to sustain this.
Thank you. Lisa, would you like to follow up in 30 seconds or less?
Sure. Just one thing that I kind of want to throw out there and clarify and reiterate. I think it's important that we play our individual positions well. And of course, there always needs to be good collaboration and good communication with our ISD partners, both Richardson and Plano ISD. But at the end of the day, as a council, council members are held to the standard of doing their jobs well and focusing on issues that they can control within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is from Christy in the reservation, and it's sort of a tongue twister, so let me get through this one. Arifin, what can the city do to improve our disaster resilience, be it drought, stormwater, and drainage management, fire, electric grid failure, or any other kind of disaster?
And that's a great question, but hope you're not going to start the time. This thing is
minutes right now.
I know our city. It's a good question. I think we need to, even though our city is 150 plus years old, lots of things has already been built, and we are rebuilding those things. So when we do the rebuilding, reconstruction, we need to really keep all those things in mind. That's what the other city also do, and I think Richardson is also doing it. But the drainage is a big problem sometimes because the infrastructure that has been built many years ago, we did not have that much paved area, so runoff has increased, and city is doing great planning. Now all those things are tied together. Like whenever we put a new water line, sewer line, we need to make sure that those will last a lot more than 50 years, even though we say 20, 25 years. Even those are important. The drainage things, if we, these are the things that the homeowners also can really play a big role. Make sure that try to keep as much green as possible. But also the power, I think the electric grid, that's one of the biggest things that we have a problem that we see that we are out of electricity whenever big storm happens, because we have so many trees, which is great things. But I think the tree were planted in the wrong place. If we would have those trees little bit away from the power line, we would not have this problem today. But we don't want to really take down those tree because just of that. But we do have to make sure that those tree doesn't fall easily. Those need some careful trimming, planning. So these are very complicated. I think it needs a lot more than 2 minutes to discuss. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to discuss this more as the election goes on, as the campaign goes on. Lisa, you have 1 minute to respond to that, to Mr. Arifin.
No, absolutely. I think Arfin spoke to very well of a lot of technical aspects. The one thing that I will layer onto that is I think for emergency management and disaster planning, we need to look at redundancies and what sort of cross collaborations we have with our regional partners. We have, a great emergency operations center on Lookout. What happens if we don't have access to that? What other partnerships can we use? Looking at planning and budgeting in the future. We all experienced the severe straight line winds in May, and had Gulf surge services trucks out there. That was an additional expense, and I think we can anticipate with additional volatility in weather patterns that we're going to see that more frequently. So I think as a city, we also need to look at our budget and how are we going to budget for these increased expenditures. And then finally, I will just emphasize that municipal collaboration to ensure that we can work together should something happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Arifin, you have 30 seconds if you'd like.
So yeah, great. Well, we do have created the fund that will be set aside to especially to take care of this kind of things in the future, which we did not have in the past. And city did a great job really managing what happened after that. So our staff, they're doing all the great works. And this year, we have taken out like more than 3 years of debris just from the one storm. So we are doing a good job. We'll be keep doing that thing moving forward.
Thank you, Arifin. Lisa, the next question is for you from Vicky in Windsor Estates. What can Richardson City Council do to collaborate with the Plano City Council? Our two cities and school districts are interdependent. You have 2 minutes.
No, I think that's a wonderful question. And I think it speaks to the broader needs of regional collaboration. I don't think it's just Richardson, Plano. I think it's Richardson, Plano, Garland, Dallas, all of North Texas. I think Richardson does great work as part of the North Texas Council of Governments. One thing specifically with Plano that I would probably push back on a little bit would be them wanting to step back from DART funding. I think we're dealing with a little bit of a common pool problem where we have a great regional resource, and it frustrates me to hear other municipalities want to step back from the funding piece of it. So if I had to speak to a specific item of collaboration that I would like to see with Plano, it would be to encourage Plano leadership to continue forward with DART funding at its current levels and really be that municipal partner. We have an exciting opportunity coming to North Texas with FIFA and World Cup, the semifinals coming. I would love to be able to see, the Silver Line reach that state of completion, so we can have on the world stage showcase some, really, really great collaborative partnerships. So I would expand that. It's not just Plano, it's throughout North Texas. And I do believe that communication and working together is really key. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Arifin, you have 1 minute. It says here that you have 2 minutes, but I think that's a typo since the format that we've been using is a 1 minute reply. So you have 1 minute to reply to that. Arifin.
Yes, I mean, these are all great questions. We are working with the city of Plano, and not just with the city of Plano, with other cities around us in North Texas in general. So I've been serving on the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition for last 2 years. The transportation issue that we've been working together, and the water, and also many other things. But the DART is something that absolutely we would be supporting. That has been started like 20 years ago. This is one of the great things. It doesn't happen overnight, and we have a strong support for DART. And Plano has their own way of thinking, but otherwise, we are working with the homeless issue. We are working with Plano. We don't have that much land or facility to manage those, but that's one of the great things that's happening now.
Thank you. Lisa, you have 30 seconds if you'd like to reply.
Nope, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Good. Saves us some time. Arifin, we'll start with you with this question from Johnny in Greenwood Hills. 2 years ago, one of RAD's priorities for the city's council was the creation of what we have come to call the Community Inclusion and Engagement Committee. It is now fully formed and has a strategic plan. Where do we go from here? What is your vision for it?
Great question. This is wonderful. This is definitely something we all, many of us really supported strongly. This is, if you just look at the name, it gives you some idea what it is for. I think this will help us communicating effectively around the city. More engagement you will see on different programs, more cultural program, more business coming to the area. So these are really the focus that, just, making sure that we are all engaged, we communicate more effectively. City is trying to communicate with all around the city with every possible way, but sometimes it's difficult to get through that. So we had to think about out of the box, and this is one of the things that came out from that, is that that we need to go where the people really do work, to communicate with them. So bringing people from different community, from different direction, will definitely encourage the culture here, and that would definitely bring more businesses to this community. So I think you will see maybe more cultural program at the downtown area naturally happening, organically happening without city's tax money, and you will see more businesses in this area, from different, we already have all this diverse community bringing all the businesses, but you will see that people coming from different cities in Richardson to spend their time and go to the restaurants. And we already have business that it brings lots of people during daytime. So I think this is one of the missing things that we had that will fill the gaps that we're filling now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Lisa, you have a minute to reply or respond.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think one key thing to consider, especially in this current climate, is how we can plug in this inclusion commission in the face of really corporate and cultural rollbacks to the broader conversation of DEI. I think Richardson has been a leader and can continue to be a leader in that space. But I do think that we're going to see some opportunities here, just looking at as quickly we've seen the culture of DEI rollback with some corporations so early into a new presidential term. And that's just the state of things right now. I do think we need to look at proactively what we can do moving forward to protect these efforts within our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Arifin, you've got 30 seconds if you'd like to follow up.
Great. Well, one thing I'd like to add, that Richardson is very unique. Our diverse community, they are very strong. They bring lots of value. So we are not talking about DEI. We are talking about really bringing people, engaging people with all the activity here, so that we can promote our city. This will become. I hope to see that Richardson become the role model for other cities, not just this region, around the country.
Thank you so much. The next question is for Lisa. Brooke in Canyon Creek would like for you to describe your experience working with different stakeholders in our community, such as businesses, community organizations, and residents. What have you learned from those experiences?
Oh, what a fun question. And I want to thank them so much for asking that, because that is really a personal passion point of mine. I've worked in both the for-profit and nonprofit sectors. I've had to focus on public safety partnerships in particular, but through nonprofit have had to work with many different stakeholders to really get the job done. I think the community works best when we do have that good collaboration between business, our nonprofit partners, our other stakeholders, our residents. To me, that's just critical. If you want to, taking a step back here, I start getting really excited. Some functional experience. I've consulted on public safety partnerships for a Fortune 500 company as it pertains to both law enforcement and emergency management. That's taken the form of everything from having high-level dialogues with a command staff leadership to walking the West Bank of New Orleans, increasing awareness as far as smoke detectors and fire prevention with the Red Cross. With the Salvation Army, I've worked with corporate supporters and also corporate and foundation funders, where we look at their different levers. Okay, what are you passionate about? What are your focus areas, and how do they align with the work that we do? I currently work for a history museum here in Dallas, and that's work that continues as well with corporate. I think everyone plays a key role, and really we can see our community work best when everyone comes to the table and is playing a part. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Erfan, you have a minute if you'd like.
Yes, I would need 2 minutes at least for this. But anyway, you know, about 32 years ago, when I was about 25, I came to this country from Bangladesh as a student, and then I started my career as a civil engineer. I'm a licensed professional civil engineer, and in 2002, I started my small business as a civil engineering consulting firm, specializing in municipal infrastructure. And I do understand the difficulties the business go through and how to manage that. And then I work, I work as a volunteer for one of, some nonprofit organization. One of the nonprofit that I served on INT, I served there as a president for 6 years. And we have done lots of community works during the COVID time. We did COVID vaccine, COVID testing, food drives. So, it's important that we support our community every possible way. That includes business and our community as in general.
Thank you, Arifin. Thank you so much. Lisa, you have 30 seconds for a follow-up, if you'd like.
Absolutely. I feel a little bad. I kind of want to give Arifin 15 more seconds so he has some time as well. But just real quick, I think to his point, we have a great nonprofit community. I would love to be able to take a look at what we can do to leverage the collective power of our different nonprofit organizations. We have, the IQ, which is a business incubator. What can we do to strengthen our area nonprofits and really heighten that partnership? Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Arifin, this last question comes to you from Justin in Canyon Creek. The question is, what are the questions you ask when considering your vote on rezoning proposals?
Well, number one, there are no cut and paste formula there. So each case are unique, and then focus on each case. So we have to see, number one, that if it is really something goes with our long-term vision, and is this something that our community want? Is there something important for our community? And it, does this goes with the neighborhood? And does this bring value to us? And sometimes they can do lots of things by right, especially for the downtown area. I would say that is so focus point right now. By right, they could build apartment there, multifamily there. So that was not really the question. The question was that they wanted to do certain way, the design. So the important things was for that project was that downtown walkability is important, and retail important, density was important, and so these are all, it's a combination of everything that how does really this thing, does this keep the integrity of our neighborhood. So these are all important. And is this going to cause problem during construction, and how they're going to mitigate those issue during construction? So every little things are very important. There is no really set question few. So if you watch those our council meeting, you will see that how many things, how much time we spend asking the developer or builder, the question that those are important. Thank you.
Thank you, Arifin. Lisa, what are the questions that you ask when considering your vote on rezoning? You like to reply to that?
No, absolutely. Now, granted, since I am not on the dais currently, that's very speculative, but I will tell you what I would focus on. First off, I think we do need to look at how does it align with our broader strategic plans. Just kind of jumping back to our, comprehensive planning, we can take a look at that 2009 plan. And yes, it was very outdated, but, I don't think everything there was accomplished. So what can we do to make sure that we're following through on this particular plan, and how does it align? I also would be very curious, what steps, a lot of times we're talking about developers, what steps are they taking to communicate and work with the community from the forefront, what that dialogue would be. If there hasn't been that dialogue, I think it's fair to kind of push back and ask for that to continue. So those right now are the two main things in my time I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Arifin, you have 30 seconds for a follow-up, if you'd like.
Yes. One thing I always said that I would never tell the business how to do business, because as a business owner, I know how this thing is important for us to do our business the way they want to do. But one thing I said that, whenever we have the opportunity, we want to make sure that this is about our city, about our people. So if, anything I'll do that will really protect our community, from having something that will, mess up our plan for the future.
Thank you, Arifin. Excuse me. Thank you both for sharing. Now we'll give each of you 1 minute for closing statements. We'll start with Lisa. 1 minute, please.
Right. Well, thank you again for everyone that's tuning into this forum, and for RAD for organizing it. Very grateful for the opportunity. One thing that I just wanted to highlight, because I heard Mayor Doobie mention this a little bit earlier, and just want to address that he spoke about that he's very excited about the council that he has. And I would echo, we do have, great leadership within the city. But I would be honored to serve under either Mayor Doobie or Mr. Omar. I think they have a lot of great qualities to offer, and are strong leaders. So I would hope that one, people consider, I humbly ask for your vote. And if elected, that there would be that spirit of cohesion, collaboration, but also respectful challenge moving forward. So again, thank you. Really appreciate your time. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Arifin, you have 1 minute to sum up or give us a closing statement.
Well, it has been an honor to serve you last 4 years. It has been a great, wonderful journey. I'm a civil engineer. I, specialize in municipal infrastructure. So this 4 years experience, and then working with the municipality for 33 years, and managing this water, sewer, street. So I'll be focusing on making sure that our infrastructure get prepared for the future, and also supporting our first responder, police and fire, and making sure they have all the tools they need to work with the community, for the community. And I have their endorsement from our police and fire. I just have recently received their endorsement. 4 years ago, I did receive their endorsement. And besides that, I'll make sure that business comes in here. We have, great, this city stays as people's city, and that's what I'll be working, and I'll hope to get your support and trust, and continue to support. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Again, we appreciate your service the last 4 years, Arifin and Lisa. We appreciate your engagement. Our city is better when its citizens step up and become involved. And with that, I'll give it back to Jenny. I hope that the audience has learned important things to help them choose their candidates, and that the candidates have felt that they were given a fair and balanced opportunity to share their platforms, accomplishments, and visions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. By the way, I want you all to know you can catch Gabe with his jazz band, Gabe Meadows and the Lush Life Trio, at various locales around town. This Saturday, he'll be at the Kitchen over on Preston, but it is sold out. He's great. And if you love jazz, find him. You'll be glad you did. He's great. Our next portion of the forum, we had the pleasure of being moderated by Nicole Hunter of the podcast Been There, Done That, or BTDT Homeschool. She and her podcast partner, Maria, have an education podcast with around 30,000 listeners, and she is very plugged into the whole subject of education. So I'm happy to turn it over to her. We'll have the same format, only we have 3 candidates in this race, so it will be question 2 minutes. Each of the 2 candidates will get 1 minute to answer or respond, and then the original candidate gets 30 seconds to rebut and follow up. And with that, Nicole, take it away.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here with y'all tonight. So first up, we are going to give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves. And we'll start with trustee Vanessa Pacheco, then go to Pamela Hughes, and then Elaine Bonavita. So Vanessa, would you like to begin?
Sure. A second. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night. And I want to thank all the audience, the hosts, and of course, Nicole for moderating. I'm Vanessa Pacheco, and serving our students is serving the future of our communities. We must protect public schools so that every student can have the opportunity to succeed and reach their goals. As trustee, I have supported the board resolution to oppose the voucher program. We've updated the teacher pay scale, increasing our pay between 3% and 30%. We've opened a child care center, and a second one will open later this year. We've expanded pre-K, improved CTE programs, enhanced translation services, and done many different things, including improving our achievement across demographics in reading and math. I can make difficult choices and center my decisions between research, facts, and how it affects our student academic growth. I have the professional experience to make these valuable decisions to fund the programs that support our students and teachers. It would be an honor to serve another term. Thank you.
Pamela?
Yes, good evening and thank you. My name's Pamela Hughes. I'm running for Richardson ISD Single Member District 2, frankly, because the community asked me to. This time last year, folks were looking for a strong leader who is connected to the community, accessible, and able to articulate the unique needs and expectations and questions from District 2, and they saw that in me. It started with a few neighbors, including, I think, some RAD members who are watching this evening, who asked me, would you ever think about running? And then it became questions from former trustees, and from former educators and administrators, and from business leaders across Richardson, and I took them seriously. So over the last year, I have been attending board meetings for fun, as well as meeting with our current trustees, our superintendent, meeting with groups like TNTP and Commit Leadership, learning about best practices that are working in districts like ours. And every step along the way, I found that yes, my experience, my skills, the career I've built would be a huge asset to our district and to the community that raised me, educated and employed my dad, and is now educating my students. So I'm here this evening in response to a call from our community, and I'm honored to answer that call.
Elaine? Elaine, you're muted.
Okay, here we go. Yay. Okay, I'm happy to say I want to stay involved with the Richardson ISD as a retired degreed permanent substitute teacher at Just Harbin and Mark Twain. Our children, your children, fill my world, and I want to be a voice for our concerned teachers and parents. You know, I want to be a part of the solution to the social and fiscal challenges facing our district with my experience as, here it is, as a former school board member at large in Iowa and a city councilor at large in Massachusetts. I want to use my law background to work with our Texas state legislature for more funding for our teachers and our public schools, ensuring transparency in all board decisions. I want to bring a conservative voice to the current board of trustees and make RISD grow again. Yes, grow again, even though we have the vouchers. We're going to grow again, folks. Put me on that board. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all of our candidates for your introductions. We are going to get started with our first question, which is from Christy in the reservation. And we're going to start with Elaine for this one. What RISD policies most affect student achievement, and do you think they can be improved? And you have 2 minutes to answer.
What policies affect student achievement? I have lived this situation that you just asked me as in Just Harbin Elementary, Mark Twain, and other elementary schools, junior high and high school in the Richardson school districts these past 3 years. And I tell you this, a zero discipline policy is what will achieve us with the grades we need for the North Star goal. And that is the best plan we can do. The state legislature right now, they have out a discipline code. It's not enough. We as a board of trustees, we can go a step further than that. We have the power to say no to the discipline problems in our schools, in elementary levels. I'm talking elementary levels. Students are not held accountable for their bad behavior. There's no consequences. Whereas we have the ISS, we can isolate the upper level schools in an isolated classroom for consequences of bad behavior without suspensions or expulsions to keep that student funding per student. We lose that student funding if students are out of school. So hence the schools tend to keep bad behaving students enrolled in our district. We need these students to succeed, but there are other students who want to learn. They cannot learn. As a teacher in the classroom with disruptive behavior, and I've experienced injuries, I've still got a medical issue with an injury from disruptive students in the classrooms when I was teaching there. Regular teachers are facing problems. We're losing teachers because of this problem. Zero tolerance for discipline. This is the plan to bring higher grades back to our schools. Let's get our kids happy in the classroom again, and let's give them the chance to learn in a safe and productive learning environment. A zero tolerance policy works, folks. Thank you.
Vanessa, you have 1 minute.
Yes, so policies that we have in our system are allowing our teachers to have additional planning sessions so that they can figure out what students need more support. We have also provided extra training so that our teachers and our staff understand the different learning needs of our students, including behavioral. We have included social service staff, counselors, and psychologists in our schools to provide additional diagnosing and make sure we create proper learning plans for all of our students. So that way they can all achieve and succeed regardless of their learning differences that they may have, whether they're emotional or it's something physical. Finally, we have implemented the Yonder Pouch in all of our schools, middle schools and elementary schools, so that they don't have access to their cell phone and they can fully focus into their school day. Finally, we do have a legislative committee, and our board creates legislative priorities, and one of them is for the state to support our discipline priority. Thank you.
And Pamela.
Yes, we know that the role of the educator in the classroom is one of the biggest and most powerful levers when it comes to driving student outcomes. So policies that relate to attracting and retaining the best teachers, identifying what they're doing in the classroom that's working and replicating that elsewhere. But beyond the compensation side of things for our educators, it's also the policies that offer support. I was just talking with a teacher 2 days ago who was discussing, when challenging questions come from parents, our teachers value a workplace where they have clarity from the board all the way down, so that those challenging questions don't become, for example, a fourth grade teacher's responsibility, but that there are clear expectations that stand across the district. And finally, policies that give autonomy to our educators in the classroom to use the strategies that they know are working for the individual students that they're seeing every day. So things like HB6 that was being referenced, any of our educator policies.
Great. Elaine, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
I love this question so much I could talk all night. Okay, so another policy that I'm really in strong support of is the SEL, okay, social emotional learning that we do in the mornings in elementary grade levels. But here's the thing, conservatives will often criticize that because of potential indoctrination. I never saw that. As a Christian conservative teacher in the schools here, I never saw that problem. What I did and what every teacher can do, we can control it and make our students happy in that SEL learning environment every morning.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Hisham in Highland Terrace, and this is for Vanessa. With all of the policy changes at the state and federal levels addressing DEI and immigration, how will you best protect the diverse populations in our community?
The best way we can protect, yes, the best way we can, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Is that to me or Vanessa?
This is for Vanessa. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. The best way we can protect our students is by making sure we have safe, stable environments in our schools and that our administrators, our teachers, and our staff are well informed about the different ways they can keep our students safe. I understand that we can't continue not doing DEI things, but allowing our students be who they are at school as they seem to be and feel to be should be the way we treat our students with respect. It is their home. It is the culture of our schools to always listen to our family members, listen to their concerns, and make sure we just follow the rules, right? If somebody comes to remove something, a child, we need to go ahead and notify that parent, notify the teacher, make sure we have all the paperwork in place if that was, the issue. We have policies where if parents don't want their student to participate in something or to read a particular book, there's a way they can opt out. So we do protect all of our students and the many differences that they have, whether it's social, if it's immigration, or if it's an emotional type of difference and service that we need to give them. We're all going to protect the different varieties that we have in our schools.
Great. Pamela, you have 1 minute.
Wonderful. I would echo what our current trustee mentioned. Stability is extremely important, especially in a time where it feels like things are changing every few days. There's a new announcement, new change. We need to provide stability where we can. And so a big part of that is putting policies in place before the question is raised. So for example, taking a look now to say what contact information do our campuses have for their students in terms of emergency contacts, knowing that changes are cropping up every few days. What other thinking can we be doing ahead of time before the question becomes the urgent one? The additional piece here, the values of respect, treating others with kindness and empathy. These are never things that I think are going to come down to needing to be legislated or could be legislated away. I remember the open, diverse, and respectful environment that I experienced at Terrace Elementary, and I know that that's going to continue for our students today.
Elaine, 1 minute.
We're talking about safety issues in the schools. This is another priority for me since I have experienced everything and anything, and I could write. I've written 2 books already on my experiences holding elected office. I would definitely encourage our teachers to take control of our classrooms. We have the power as teachers in every classroom to make it a safe, productive learning environment. Many teachers are not doing this because they are distracted by so much disruptive behavior in the classrooms. Now I'm talking elementary schools. We have the police, I used to call them. The junior high used to call the police to the classrooms when I was substituting there. And I said, I can't do this anymore. So I went to the elementary schools. But where I was at Mark Twain Elementary, I could hold it up as a model. God bless Mark Twain Elementary, the principal, the teachers. Our students are a role of discipline and respect for our teachers. We need to hold them up to higher standards in other elementary campuses in our district, and we would do great by watching Mark Twain's success.
Vanessa, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
Yes, I do want to add that our district does have plans and plans in place for any and all kinds of situations. They have existed for many years. It is not something new that we worry about. And ultimately, everything we do for our students is to make sure that they are safe, they are confident in their spaces, and that their parents know that we are entrusted with their safety. And we will do everything we can to keep that protected while they're within our 4 walls.
Thank you. Pamela, we'll start this next question with you. It's from Vicki in Heights Park, and she asks, how important is representation in a district with a large minority population when it comes to hiring teachers and electing trustees?
Thank you so much for that question. I'll break it into the 2 pieces here. So when it comes to hiring teachers, there's data out there that shows that when students see a teacher who looks like them, see a teacher living that experience, it changes their experience in the classroom and what they believe is possible. I've heard it from folks I've interacted with myself, as well as read the research behind it. So very important that our educator base is both the most qualified and fantastic teachers available to hire, as well as teachers who represent the diversity of the students within Richardson ISD. When it comes to diversity on the school board, this is an issue that Richardson, I think, has dealt with well with our shift to the 5-2 single member district versus at-large model. And I would also say that the next piece I'd love to see us embrace on our school board is taking that representation from participation in 7-0 votes and in, I think Mr. Amar referred to it earlier, rosy conversation. And I would love to see us have representation of the diversity across our district when it comes to the conversation happening at the Horseshoe. So an example here, Berkner Learning Community sits in District 2. At our most recent board meeting, we heard a really good presentation on the magnet programs within Richardson ISD. And I was waiting for a question about the STEM Academy at Berkner High School, because in my year of attending the board meetings and watching past ones, I haven't yet heard, how is Berkner's STEM Academy doing 6 years in? It was frustrating to not hear questions like, how is it performing? What data are we seeing? When will we get a report about what's happening in that building? And so I think it's important not only to have representation of ethnicity, but representation of the people who make up RISD to ask those unique questions.
Elaine, you have 1 minute.
You know, we're talking about representation here when we're talking about hiring teachers. And did you ask about administrators as well, or just teachers are we looking at in this question? Okay, so hiring teachers, there was a teacher survey put out, and the teachers cited the #1 factor, the problem in our schools was discipline. Okay, and that was driving our teachers away. We want to bring our teachers back. We want to retain our teachers. We talk about representation. What better way to have a teacher represent her value-based philosophies in the classroom of happiness for our students, a desire to learn, to promote safety in the classroom. We want representation from our teachers who care and love our students, who will cry when they cry, who will be happy when they are happy. This is the representation we want from our teachers to serve our children. And we can do best when we listen to our parents, our teachers, and our students.
Vanessa, you have 1 minute.
Sure. This is the minority majority district, and it is fairly important, extremely important, that our teachers represent also that cultural difference, because we have a lot of different nuances culturally, language-wise. Families can communicate with those educators better when it's within their native language. I believe the same should look the same for our Richardson board. We are a majority minority board, and we have worked very well and diligently to focus on what matters, which is student outcomes over that. And then finally, I want to remind everybody that as trustees, we're entrusted with the funding and the educational outcomes of every single student. We don't, and we're not entrusted only for District 2, which is the district I represent. We're entrusted to make choices and decisions for the entirety of our district. And the presentation that they talked about was a presentation of the current programming and how we're going to improve on that for the future. We have to start somewhere to start that discussion.
Thank you. And Pamela, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
Great. Our trustees have a really powerful opportunity with their questions to shine spotlights on things that need to be addressed by the district, by the administration, by the superintendent. So I would say the Berkner STEM Academy is one where a question could be very helpful, as well looking into our persistent achievement gaps. Trustee Pacheco is right. We are a majority minority district. And so if our strategies aren't working for our Black, our Hispanic, our Asian students, we have to ask why.
Thank you. Elaine, Sina in Cottonwood Heights says, considering the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education, how will we address the education of special needs children in RISD?
That's a great question. And I've thought about it, and I've prayed about it always. And when I hear about the dismantling of the Department of Education, the good news is, everybody listen to this. The good news is that there will be money, more money coming directly to every state. More money, billions of dollars coming back to the states. No more strings attached to these programs and curriculum that we do not need in different districts. Every district has its own specific needs. So when we have the dismantling of the Department of Education, this will be a blessing to our district as well as all districts across the United States. Public education will thrive. Declining enrollment will slow down because we'll have more money coming back into our district. We will be able to offer programs that we couldn't have done with the strings attached to the money from the Department of Education. The dismantling of this group of people is a blessing, and we need to embrace that thought. We don't need to fear it. We need to embrace it. Change can be better, and this is a change that I welcome gladly. I've been on the school board before. I served all of the areas in my school district. I was an at-large. I'd go in the schools. I went into the classrooms. I look forward to doing that again when I am on the school board here in Richardson. I look forward to getting back into the classrooms. I miss our children. They fill my world, and I want to see the good things that will come now when all these billions of dollars come back to the states. Isn't that a happy thought right now? Instead of fearing something, let us embrace it with a hope that our school district, Richardson Schools, will grow again when we stop the ties, the strings attached to the money from the federal level. We can do what we want with that money now. We can grow our enrollment. We can make our schools better. And it won't be something to fear and say, oh, well, now it's going to be even worse than ever before. We won't have money. That is not true.
Vanessa, you have 1 minute.
Sure. As it stands, even though with the federal government funding some of our special education, it is not a full fund, and the state of Texas has failed to fund the remaining part. So right now, currently, we already subsidize our special education services. giving the state more money to not provide to us as school districts is extremely dangerous for our students. We will not be able to provide them all the services they need. We know that the state has kept billions of dollars already. That is something that our districts need and deserve, and they have earned it to provide services for our students. I can't imagine or trust that we will receive that funding directly from the state. And all it's going to do is affect our special education population because right now we subsidize it, and now we're going to have to subsidize even more.
Thank you. Pamela, you have 1 minute.
Great. Yeah, this is a spot where part of the role of the trustee is to help in advocating for public policy. And so advocating with our legislators in Austin on the funding for special education. I know in SB2, for example, there are big numbers being quoted. A lot of it is siloed into programs. One of those programs is special education. So that is at least one where the dollars being assigned will be helpful. It won't cover the entirety of what's needed in the district, but is going towards a program that desperately needs that funding. The second piece here is, I know as someone who has worked with our district leaders at this point, we have excellent folks in our government affairs office and in our special education department who I know will be watching. There's a lot of discussion about where will the programs from Department of Education land. And so keeping an eye toward which programs move to new departments versus which programs are sunsetted. And so I would trust in our folks whose job it is to follow that.
Thank you. Elaine, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
Yes, I heard a comment that we might not be able to trust our state legislature to give this money back to us. Let me tell you this. I used to be a Democrat, and I changed the Republican Party. And I tell you this, because there is integrity. When people believe in God, trust in God, and ask for God to come back into our schools again, we will have the money that is given back to the states, and we will use it for our children. In the state legislature, the Republicans control, they will not take that money out of our children's classrooms.
Moving along, Vanessa, this question comes from Mary in College Park North. She asks what involvement you've had in RISD, either working with or volunteering for students in gifted populations, for example, students with disabilities, English learners, low income, or gifted and talented. And what do you believe the role of a trustee should be with respect to programs and services for those populations?
Sure. So my involvement is as an individual. I have definitely volunteered to read to students. I do so in Spanish because I'm a bilingual person, and I was also an English language learner. So usually when we have those programs, I do volunteer for that. I volunteer for other opportunities in cultural events and different things like that, including supporting our PTAs. And as far as a trustee and what involvement we have with programs, we are above the governance line, so we must always remember that we don't create the program, we monitor the program, and we check the progress, and we fund them. And one thing that I always want to check is how can we prioritize those, and how do we check the improvements on student populations? Is this something we can replicate in other schools? Is this scalable based on the limited funding that we already have? So as trustees, we monitor and fund those programs. We allow our professionals, our superintendent and her team, to develop them and show us the plan. So those are some of the things that I do. Additionally, I mean, I come from that learning population, and I communicate, using my native language with these families and many families. I also have been invited for Career Day to talk about my path in education. Not just here, but DISD, UT Dallas, and other places. And of course, I always donate. I donate supplies when they need them. I donate to the PTA with whatever they need. I've participated with the Clothes Closet before. And so I am highly involved as an individual and also as a trustee.
Great, thank you. Pamela, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I heard a couple different populations named in there. So in terms of involvement with gifted and talented programming. I actually was a GT student in RISD back in the day when it was the REACH program. And today I've got 2 children in the district, and they are both in the GT program as well. So I appreciate the program that the district has put together to meet those distinct needs for our students who need those supports. In terms of additional involvement within the district, so one of my past experiences is as church council chair for First United Methodist Church of Richardson. They are a faith partner who works with the district and actually started the We Read Together program that's now expanded across the district. And through that work, I've had the opportunity to volunteer with schools including Mark Twain and Dover, as well as, of course, at my own children's schools. I am a board member on the Yale Elementary PTA this year and an active volunteer for the past 7 years with the Dartmouth PTA. RISD has kind of become my life.
Elaine, you have 1 minute.
Okay, here we go. I am an ESL student. When I joined the public school system, I'm the first generation in America, Latino Italian heritage, and I could not speak English. And so for ESL students, I am an advocate for them. But we had the basic curriculum, the 3 R's, and it allowed me to keep straight A's from elementary all the way up to high school, straight A's. And I could not speak English going into schools. And my parents didn't speak English in the home for the longest time. So now what we need to do for our ESL students today, survey the parents, see what they need. But most importantly, as a trustee on the board, I would advocate for going back to the basics, the 3 R's. And we do that with the Bluebonnet curriculum, which has already been adopted, that we can, as a trustee, vote to do that for the ESL students. Let's give them an edge and start teaching them easier learning skills than what is being presented in our schools today. Conservatives have brought that up through the years.
Vanessa, you have a 30-second follow-up.
Sure. I have a great, I'm very positive of our students' learning opportunities and the way they can learn. I believe we can challenge them to learn more difficult concepts at earlier ages sometimes, if that's the need that they have, if they're gifted and talented, or we can adjust, right? And I fully support programs that adjust students who have learning difficulties in certain ways and support those programs as well. Every student can learn, and we provide every single possibility for each one so that they can be as successful as they want in our district.
Thank you, candidates. Our next question is for Pamela, and this is from Alicia in Heights Park. How would you approach teacher compensation and retention given the current funding constraints and Texas's ranking of 30th nationally in average teacher salary? And Pamela, you have 2 minutes.
So oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
So the board just passed last year a revised compensation package that makes RISD the leading salary option, especially for our veteran teachers. And I do appreciate that that was an emphasis with how do we retain our great teachers here in Richardson. But you're right, there are budget constraints. And so what can we do additionally that either would be budget neutral or would be responsible in the light of that? So that actually gets back to one of the first things I was saying, which is salary and compensation is a piece of what teachers tell us keeps them in the profession, but it's not the entirety. And actually one of the leading pieces of why teachers tell us they stay in the profession and in the campus where they are comes down to campus leadership. And so looking at where can we pour into our campus level administrators so that we are establishing every single one of our RISD campuses as a great workplace. We need campuses that have a culture of support, of collegiality, of mentorship. This is what educators are telling us that they're looking for in their profession. Collegiality actually came up even higher than job security. So our educators want to be in the classroom. They view this as a gift and a calling. It's something they love to do, and they need to be in an environment that supports it, no matter which of our RISD campuses they've chosen. And the beauty of it is that's not something that's going to be tied then to needing to pass additional compensation packages beyond, of course, raises that would come with cost of living. I think the fact that we've become the #1 paying district is fantastic. And we're already seeing the HR results bear out that, yes, we are attracting new highly qualified educators, and more importantly, we are retaining the great ones who are already in our classrooms. So what additional can we do to build on the work that was done last year?
And Elaine, you have 1 minute.
Okay, so for the love of teaching, teachers, and I say this as an educator myself in Fort Worth school districts in Richardson, I say this, we're not in it for the money, even as a substitute teacher. We're not in it for the money. We are in it because we love our children, your children. We want to help our children to achieve greater success than they have been doing in the past. We want to go back to where it was decades ago, where with the 3 R's, they were just graduating, reading, and writing. We want to go back to that time, and we can. Change is good, and it's coming right now from the state legislature with all the bills that they have brought in. We can do this. The love of teaching. Teachers can be rewarded, and we will retain our teachers when we provide a safe and productive learning environment for them. As a trustee, I will support our teachers because I know what they need in the classroom. I have experienced it, I have memories of it, and I dream of a better way for our district.
Vanessa, you have 1 minute.
Sure. Yes, we supported a pay scale update, and that increased teacher salaries, protecting them, mainly providing a grade increase for our veteran teachers, and also retaining new teachers and getting new ones as recruiting. We do still have to update other pay scales, most likely for other T-type teachers, like aides, counselors, nurses, and other type instructions, and people who work with our kids every single day. I believe that every single person is a professional and they should be remunerated accordingly. However, we have budget constraints, and I must look at that and make difficult decisions. I won't renege or choose to remove programs that are working or fund them less, but I would want to look at things and analyze the budgetary information and the facts of how many students a certain item affects and how do we improve on it, because my main goal is to affect as many students as we can with all the money that we have.
Thank you. Pamela, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
Yes, an additional place where I think we have opportunity is expanding our teacher incentive allotment and board certified programming. So these are programs that reward our teachers who are seeing great results, and especially in the schools that need it most. So it's a benefit to the district to have excellent educators in targeted schools. And another fantastic piece of this is it doesn't come from the district's budget. So that's another opportunity where we can expand something that is working in some of our campuses to more of them across Richardson ISD.
Thank you. So now for the really fun part, we're going to move to our rapid fire questions. These are all going to be yes or no questions, agree or disagree, and we'll ask you to keep your answers just to that simple yes or simple no, regardless of the nuance that you would love to bring into the response. I'm going to call your name and you can answer after I ask the question. So the first one is, are you in favor of using the Bluebonnet curriculum in language arts for K through 5 and the Bluebonnet curriculum in math for K through 8? Vanessa?
No.
Yeah. Sorry, I said yes or no. So you said no. Pamela?
No.
Elaine?
Yes.
Next question is, do you agree with banning books in public school libraries? Pamela?
No.
Elaine?
No.
Vanessa?
No.
Do you agree with vouchers for private schools being paid from public tax funds? Elaine?
Yes.
Vanessa?
No.
Pamela?
No.
Do you agree with dress codes for students? Yes or no? Vanessa?
No.
Pamela?
I'm sorry, did you say dress codes?
Dress codes, yes.
Yes, I agree with dress codes.
And Elaine?
Yes.
Do you agree with Texas Senate SB 10, which requires the 10 Commandments being posted in classrooms? Pamela?
No.
Elaine?
Yes.
Vanessa?
No.
And are you in agreement with SB 11, which would require school boards to vote on allowing designated prayer time? Elaine?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
And Pamela?
No.
Thank you all for your great answers. We'll wrap up with 1 minute each to remind our audience of why you want them to vote for you. And we'll start with Pamela.
Well, thank you so much to the Richardson Area Democrats for hosting this evening. Great format and fantastic questions. One thing that didn't come up that I would love to make sure we keep top of mind is student outcomes have to be at the forefront of every decision we're making. And when I've talked with folks about that, they ask, what do you mean? We actually have very clear 2027 board goals that were set by our current school board and that map out what we expect our students to be doing by the time we hit 2027 in terms of third grade reading, third grade math, and college, career, and military readiness. I think these are great goals because at the end of the day, everyone I've talked to wants to make sure, are our students learning? And this is our metric and our way of monitoring to be able to say yes or no, is the district strategy working? I would encourage folks to take a look at the RISD website. There is a great progress tracker. The trend line is not, I think, what we would hope to see, but it's also only 2 years in, and I'd love to hear our trustees address that.
Thank you. Elaine?
Okay, with my experience on the school board before and on the city council, I also published conservative newspapers and 2 conservative television talk shows because the school board and the city council, when I was on them, were not transparent. That's the problem. We need transparency. I bring transparency to any board or council that I've ever served on and will continue to do that when I'm elected to the Board of Trustees for Richardson, because I know to ask questions and I know to get the answers, and I don't get the answers, I know how to find the answers and to ask both sides. I have a gift, a talent for engaging public discussion. That's what we need, more public discussion on controversial issues. And there's going to be plenty of controversial challenges, social and fiscal, coming down with these wonderful education bills being passed now in our state. We can work together. We can do this. We can grow our enrollment. This is my goal, make public education better than it's ever been done before. Let's prove the critics wrong, that we're a losing proposition with public education. We are not. We need it.
Thank you. Vanessa, you have 1 minute.
Sure. I attended Texas Public Schools. My children graduated from Richardson ISD. As I said, I'm a former English language learner, and I understand the complexities of having to expand on my learning ability in using 2 languages. And I am successful because of the strong foundation that was provided by the amazing Texas teachers. I will be immediately available to work through the new challenges we will face as a community over the next few years. I will not be limited by a learning curve to make any decisions that align strategically with the district goals that support student academic growth. As your trustee, I will continue to strive and remove the barriers of learning and to be the bridge of this community to help push RISD into the future with success. We must continue to improve and become stronger, a more enriched and competitive school district. So I would be honored for sure with your vote. And I'm excited to have stepped in and continue to serve our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your participation tonight. Vanessa, thank you for your service these past 3 years. And for Pamela and Elaine, thank you for caring about public education and your kids enough to run for this volunteer position in our community that carries a great deal of responsibility. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jenny.
Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time and dedication to local democracy. I want to acknowledge a few people that made this happen tonight. First, thank you to Preston, our fearless Vice President and IT AV guy, for making all this look so good and actually work. Thank you, Pat, our wonderful RAD secretary, for working through the questions with me and helping me make sense of my thoughts. Thank you to the moderators, Gabe and Nicole, for stepping up to help us with the managing of this conversation. And thank you to Maria, the behind the scenes technical support for our moderators. If you enjoyed tonight's event, please check out rad.vote and come to our in-person events. We'd love to have you. And thanks, and see you all at the polls. Early voting starts on April 22nd, and Election Day is May 5th. Thank you, and good luck to all the candidates.